Come in. Oh, Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Jefferson. What can I do for you?
Well, sir, good to see you, President Washington. There's just some things that I've been thinking about, and just like I have some questions, and I thought you would be the best person to come to. And could I take up a moment of your time, sir?
Certainly, Mr. Jefferson. Now, what seems to be the problem?
Well, I was just wondering. I keep thinking about our war with England, our American Revolution, and I was just like, it's been bothering me. Why didn't we take over England?
That is a very curious question indeed. Is there a reason why we should have taken over England?
Well, so that we could have control of it, sir. I mean, like right now, France, the citizens are taking over their rulers. Like, why don't we do the same? Why didn't we do the same?
So you're saying that instead of starting a new nation, we should have just taken over England?
Yeah, basically, sir.
Well, let us first remember how our war with England began.
Well, the war with England began because King George was imposing taxes on us, but at the same time wouldn't let us have representation in Parliament, and so that we could vote on those taxes, and that was completely unfair.
Is that all?
Well, basically we started writing letters writing about this injustice, and telling him we needed Parliament. We needed representation, and he wouldn't listen, and that's how the Declaration of Independence came to be. But you of all people, that consisted of you, me, and some others, but you of all people should know I know this. So why with this question?
Right now we are recalling the events that led up to our war with England. You asked me why don't we take over England, but before we get into that, answer me this. As soon as we recognize the injustice, why didn't we begin the war immediately?
Well, of course we didn't want a war in the first place. We just wanted fair representation. And when that was not granted, we tried to secede peacefully. That was the entire purpose of the Declaration of People. But again, I know this better than anyone because I'm the one who wrote the dang letter.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to help you realize is if we had taken over England, that would not be just at all, because all we were doing is trying to escape injustice.
Well then that would get us onto the topic of what is a just war.
And so answer me this, what is a just war?
Let me think about that. Well, I guess I would define it as the justification under certain conditions of how wars are started.
And in your opinion, what would be those certain conditions?
Well, those certain conditions would be if a group of some kind were being mistreated, oppressed, or something of the sort, then they would have the right to pull away from that nation.
How are they pulling away, or do you mean they are just taking over their oppressors?
Well, that's not preferable, but I mean, they are. But I mean, the group can do it by force if need be.
Okay, so currently in France, the citizens are overthrowing the aristocrats, as you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation. So would that be considered a just war?
Not exactly, no sir.
Why would it not be a just war? Moments ago, you said we should have taken over England.
Well, sir, it's just different because the citizens are just rioting in a very unorganized fashion. And they justify their oppression by beheading the wealthy.
So then are you saying that it depends on the kind of force that you use?
Yes, sir.
So what kind of force would be used to make a war just?
Well, maybe force should be the last resort, and other methods should be attempted first.
Nicely said, Mr. Jefferson. So, in our war with England, would you say that it is a just war, and why?
Well, yes, sir. Our war with England, well, of course, started off when King George wasn't giving us representation in Parliament. And when we even attempted to pull away peacefully by writing the Declaration of Independence, and we tried to pull away peacefully by then, so that is why it was a just war, because it was our last resort.
So back to your original question, have you come up with your conclusion of why we did not take over England?
Yes, it is clear, very clear, sir, that our war with England was not a battle of power, but a battle of justice. And now on that note, I know I've taken a lot of your valuable time, and I will leave you to attend to your matters. Thank you, sir.
It was a pleasure, old friend.
Yes, sir.